All right. Let's get to the Raiders Broncos recap. Mike, this was a tough one because the Raiders seemed like I felt really good about my pick early in the game. The Raiders started off, I think, up 10-0, and then everything after that just went wrong, it seems like.
No, it went right. My team won. My Denver
Oh,
Broncos won. No. Yeah, no, it was bad.
well, yeah. Everything
I
went
did pick
right.
the Broncos to
Well,
win.
you did pick the Broncos to win. And all right, I wanted to switch my pick so bad to the Broncos, but I just thought about how I switched my pick to the Browns last week, and I was like, all right, I'm going to actually give Antonio Pierce the benefit of the doubt this time. Little did we know there was going to be like a huge blow up, like, oh, Devontae Adams has requested trade. After last week, you were like, if Devontae Adams gets traded to the Jets, I am going. You can punch me live.
Yes. Yeah. And here we are. And all I will say is pull your punch. Please pull your punch.
Yeah, it seems like it might be a realistic possibility. The Jets just had a miserable game on offense where it's almost like they were screaming at the Raiders, or just screaming to the NFL, "We need Devontae Adams to pair with the rest of this team."
Yeah. We'll probably get back on Devontae, but man, I'm looking at these upcoming weeks, dude. I'm not even gonna lie to you. The Raiders have a bye week in week 10.
Mm-hmm.
Currently on week 5, going on week 6. So we have 4 games before the bye week. Barring any significant change, I think it is, like, for me, 90% likely the Raiders will be going 0-4 the next 4 weeks.
0-4.
Steelers, Rams, Chiefs, Bengals. Spoiler for my pick this upcoming week, but this does not look good. And then Dolphins week 11, they probably have Tua back if he's going to stay in the NFL. Week 12 against the Broncos, they're probably only going to get slightly better. Chiefs again. Buccaneers are pretty good. Falcons are solid. Jags might be the only game on this schedule that I think the Raiders very well, let's call it, should be favored in.
Mm-hmm.
But by that point, it could be completely different. Like they could lose out for all I know. They really could, and I'd
Yeah,
love it. I hope they do.
but you know who's not losing out? You, because you finally got your first Raider pick of the season correct. So I just want to say congratulations, Mike. You are the Raider expert on this channel. So, just congratulations, buddy.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. It took you 5 weeks, but you finally, that's the thing, dude. Right now, it's just so hard to predict the Raiders because this happens every single year. It's not even Antonio Pierce as the head coach. The Raiders win games they're not supposed to be in, and then they lose games that they don't have business losing to those teams. I don't get it. I blame Mark Davis. It stems from the top.
Yeah, I that's a long-winded conversation to eventually be had, but there's something there for sure. As far as this Broncos game, I mean, really just going over some stats. You kind of mentioned it before we got onto this, but for people watching this singular video, Alexander Madison was the lead back in this game. Zamir White was out. Madison, 15 carries for 38 yards, 2.5 yards per carry. Awesome. You also had Amir Abdullah, who had 5 carries for 42 yards. Nice. And he had a touchdown at the end of the game when, they were just in garbage time mode, trying to come back, but it was like pretty much impossible without at least one onside kick, which you can't even pretend to like not be doing anymore, which at that point in the game you wouldn't be pretending anyways. Brock Bowers, great game, 8 receptions for 97 yards and a long 57-yard touchdown off 12 targets, his career high. Get used to it because Devontae Adams isn't going to be here anymore. Jacoby Myers had 6 receptions for 72 yards on 9 targets. Nice. And then Trey Tucker, 2 receptions on with 18 yards. Nothing
Real
else really
quick,
notable.
I want to give Luke Getzey credit for featuring Brock Bowers this week. Brock Bowers had a hell of a game, and I was sort of worried that last week they didn't have Devontae Adams, and they did not feature Brock Bowers for whatever reason. They kind of got away from him. I'm glad that they were going against a good defense, and so you would think that they would be focusing on Bowers. It didn't matter. Bowers had a good game. And I feel like a lot of that came in the first half. And like maybe he was kind of shut down a little bit, maybe a little bit later in the game. But, I still like that he was and should be the focal point to this offense, because right now without Devontae Adams, I think Brock Bowers is the best skilled position player on the field.
Yep, 1,000%. Gardner Minshew, 12 for 17 for 137 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And then Aiden O'Connell came into this game late, possibly in the third quarter. 10 for 20, 94 yards, and an interception. And then I won't go over any defensive player stats, but Bo Nix was 19 for 27, 206 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Javonte Williams, 13 carries, 61 yards, a 4.7 yards per carry average, along with 17. Raiders are just kind of getting gashed, really, on defense. But the leading receiver for the Broncos was also Javonte Williams, 5 receptions for 50 yards. And they spread the ball around. Geez, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players receive the ball in this game from Mr. Bo Nix. That's very interesting and probably
hella
smart.
Impressive. It's very smart, very impressive.
But Javonte Williams having 5 catches for 50 yards and being the leading receiver as far as like yards tells me a lot about Bo Nix, but clearly it worked. So I'm not going to say that in a negative way. I think the Broncos earned their flowers in this game, and really over the course of so far in this season, besides one stinker of a game, the Broncos are much more impressive than I expected them to be this year. And although I hate to say that, I hate to admit that, I still do, because I should. So that's about all I can say before I start throwing up live on air. But I'd say
Lucky
now
puts
we can
it perfectly. Lucky said that she made a business decision by turning off the TV the minute that Gardner Minshew threw a pick 6 for Surtain to gain 100 yards. Nasty work.
Yes.
I'm not even going to lie. I started the Broncos defense, and I did pick the Raiders to win this game. I started the Broncos defense just in case, because I figure, hey, I can at least be right one of the two ways. And I still felt like the Raiders could have won this game and given up a touchdown to the opposing defense. Like that also crossed my mind. But yeah, no, it sounds like this was just one of those games, and honestly, that's kind of where Raider fans are at right now, because they're in quarterback purgatory. They've been for ever since they got rid of Derek Carr, and even the Derek Carr days felt like, man, we need to upgrade at quarterback.
Yep.
So
100%. Yeah, Pat Surtain had a great day against the Raiders. He looked like the best corner in football. Mm-hmm. So
you said you weren't going to get into any defensive stats, but I did want to highlight the one player that always deserves praise on the Raiders, and that's Max Crosby. He had 2 sacks, and I think that shouldn't go unnoticed. I think that's good.
Yeah. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Spillane led the team in tackling, 2 tackles for loss. Christian Wilkins had 2 tackles for loss. He was knocked out of this game with a foot injury.
Wilkins?
Jack Jones had a sack. Yeah, Christian Wilkins.
One thing I will say, did Max Crosby, was he lined up? I don't know if you know, but was he lined up on Mike McGlinchey? Because if he was, I actually want to take my praise back. He should have had more.
Yeah. I'm sure he was on both sides of the ball.
And he hates McGlinchey, right?
I'm pretty sure he's got a little bit of a thing against him.
Yep.
I think he feels that he might be a dirty blocker or something. I'm not sure. I forget.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we just quickly get into Devontae Adams, and then we can move on to the preview for next week, because I'm tired of talking about this team. I guess I should eat some crow, or possibly some Edgar Allan Poe Raven, because last week I literally said, if you already mentioned it, but if Devontae Adams gets traded to the Jets, I will come over and be walking up behind you on the pod live and say, punch me as hard as you can, because that shit's not happening. And then within like 3 days, it was announced that Devontae Adams is demanding a trade, and the leading the leading candidate, like literally the team that Devontae wants to go to, is the Jets. And I was just sitting there like, I can't even lie, that's fucking hilarious. We were clowning this so much a week ago, of like every single week it's like the Raiders lose, and it's like,
Gotta
they
get
should trade
Devontae
Devontae
out of here.
Adams.
Hey,
Gotta get him
you
out
know
of
what?
there.
We mentioned it so much, and I really feel like, all right, this is crazy. I didn't see anyone else talking about it. So, like, if you're getting premium content here, we're foreshadowing what's going to happen before it happens. Not on our picks, so to speak, every week. I think we're not doing so good in that, because we don't want to spoil it. Like, we still want the games to be,
Yeah.
the games to be interesting for you guys.
Right.
Can you hear that helicopter outside?
Not super loud, but yeah.
Is that a helicopter or an airplane? That's weird. It's like 1 a.m. Come on, there's a show going on. Have some respect. All right.
It's been a lot of military aircraft in the past week. It could be military.
Yeah, they're over here turning up the thermostat outside. It's fucking hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, we sort of like, at least to my knowledge, we're one of the only people really talking about like the whole Devontae Adams being traded part, because everybody sort of brushed it off. At first, maybe people hinted that maybe Devontae was the business decisions guy, but the red flag was, all right, Devontae's got a hamstring injury. He's just out. He's out this week. I said, nah, that stinks like shit. That's bullcrap. I think,
yeah.
like AJ Brown had the hamstring injury for the Eagles, and even he was like, oh, he's going to try and test it, and he might play. And then it took like a day. It was like, all right, news. Devontae's not playing. He's got a hamstring. Max is out. Michael Mayer's out for a personal reason. And then they sat Jack Jones. Like, this was coming off the business decisions thing. So that's where my mind was at. Like, who is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess maybe Devontae is dealing with a hamstring injury, but I think he will have fresh hamstrings for his next team if he does indeed get traded, which I think they're going to trade him. I really do.
No, they will. I guarantee they will. Like, now you can punch me if they don't, pretty much. I would just say,
you just sound like you want me to punch you.
It'd be great content, really. The reporting is that the Raiders are telling teams like, oh, it's still a 1 to 2 week timeline before his hamstring should be good. So like, I still believe the injury is a thing, but maybe it was self-reported. Like, maybe it's a thing to the Raiders, but it's actually not a thing to Devontae, if that makes sense. Like, he could have just been like, I don't want to play anymore for these guys. I don't know. But and I didn't even get to, that was the thing I didn't get to say earlier. Robert Spillane was on some podcast, and they asked him like about like, maybe like, is this a distraction right now for the team, or something along those lines, with like something revolving around Devontae Adams and like a player getting traded, or looking to get traded. And Spillane's response was something along the lines of like, well, right now we're more focused on the guys who are actually here practicing and putting in the work, or something like that. And I was like, interesting use of words right there, you know? Um, so I don't know if he's insinuating that before all of this, that's been an issue, or if he's hurt, he's not here, suddenly he wants to leave. Hey, we're focused on our guys that are here. So what? Maybe he's just being blunt, but not trying to be, like a little jab or anything. It could have just been a blunt, very honest answer, which is fine. Uh, I'm not going to turn on Devontae. I like Devontae a lot. I I would like him to stay, but I also when we started this podcast, there were times where I said you know, if they can't get this to work, there's going to come a point where it's like, well, you probably should trade Devontae because you're wasting the end of his prime. If not, that's already passed. And what's it going to amount to if you're still waiting to draft a quarterback? Like, not every quarterback is going to be, unfortunately, not every quarterback is going to be a CJ Stroud and a Jaden Daniels, where it's like week 2, it's just like, oh, he's him. That doesn't happen every year. Like, usually what happens is the quarterback has his fair amount of struggles rookie season, and then coming into year 2, the team might trade for a quarterback, say Eagles, AJ Brown for Jalen Hurts, Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen, et cetera, et cetera. This year was the first year for uh, Caleb Williams trading for Keenan Allen, right, and drafting uh, Adunze. But a lot of teams like to surround their quarterbacks with wide receiver talent when they feel like they're ready to take that next step. So it's like, yeah, it's cool that you already have this receiver in Devontae Adams here, but how long is it going to last? So why not go ahead and trade him for a second round pick plus? That's exactly what my price point would be. That's what the reporting is saying that the Raiders are looking for. I am in agreement with them. I think it's perfectly fine. And if he wants to get out of here, there's no need to keep him. There's no need to make him suffer. Get him out of there. And honestly, I'd like to see him win a Super Bowl because I think he's a Hall of Fame player, and I've followed him since he was at Fresno State. I really do like him. I don't think that there's any issue here as far as him faking anything or him, ever being a bad teammate. I think as long as there's been drama surrounding around Devontae Adams and, oh, he should get traded from the Raiders, it's never been because he said something. Or the only time that it was because he said something was because of the heading that the report would put and kind of misconstrue his words. He was never, ever implying or suggesting that he wants to leave until he finally put in the trade request and made it official. He never did that shit. He never fucked around. He was never unprofessional. He was always a great Raider, in my opinion. What sucks is the timing was really bad because they had Josh McDaniels, and he came here with hopes of let's get this done, Derek Carr. Let's do this. Let's do what you have tried for 9 fucking years, Derek Carr, to do with the Raiders, which is go to the playoffs, win playoff games, and strive for a Super Bowl. And then after that season, it's like, well, Derek Carr's out of here, and you're stuck with me, and my name's Josh McDaniels, And then 7 weeks into the next season, he's gone, and Devontae's like, what the fuck are we doing? Right? Jimmy Garoppolo, now Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew can't. I made a really crude joke earlier to my stepdad. Basically, if Gardner Minshew were offered something that any person would love to be offered, but let's just say, because this show is not really, but let's just say this show's for kids. If Gardner Minshew were offered the most perfect steak ever seen, this is a $200 steak, maybe even more. It's the most expensive steak in the world. Gardner Minshew, you can get this steak for free. If you just make 5 consistently accurate passes, you will get this steak. That motherfucker will not eat because he cannot do it.
Or he'll just have to pay for the steak.
Or he's paying for the steak, yeah, which he can, but I know I'd want that thing for free. So, point is, ever since Derek Carr was forced out, Devontae's been in this, quarterback purgatory with us fans, of like, well, I don't know what's going to happen here. And the end of my career, or end of my prime at least, is getting wasted here. So that's why all the, Devontae to the Jets rumors were all out there, and their fans were super excited about it, because it's like the writing is on the wall. Yeah, no shit. Like, he should want out. He should have been wanting out since last year, but he never demanded a trade in the offseason, nothing. But here he is. It's week 4, and he probably sees something that he doesn't like. And honestly, I guess this will be my last point. For one, I don't blame him, but for two, I wouldn't exactly blame him if what pushed him over the edge. This might be like a strong take. I wouldn't blame him if what pushed him over the edge, because he knew coming into the season, like, all right, it's Gardner Minshew, Braden O'Connell. We didn't draft a fucking quarterback. All right, like, I guess I'll do what I can. Michael Pittman had a good year last year with Gardner Minshew. Like, fuck it. All right. What might have pushed him over the edge was fucking Antonio Pierce. With the whole, what did Antonio Pierce say?
Business decisions.
Like, it's probably not out of this world to say that business decisions comment, maybe it rubbed Devontae the wrong way. And maybe I was dead wrong a week or two ago of like, I don't mind it at all. I don't see anything wrong with it. Maybe Devontae did. Or maybe Devontae took a serious exception to hearing that Antonio Pierce liked a post on, I think, Instagram, that Devontae Adams had played his last down as a Raider. Let me tell you right now, take Devontae Adams out of that, we are all human. These NFL coaches are humans. These GMs are humans. We've seen many people in the NFL in high-ranking positions get humanized, very much so, in different ways, between John Gruden and Dan Snyder and everything in between.
John Lynch a couple years ago liked a tweet after the 49ers lost to the Tennessee Titans in Nashville, and he liked a tweet that I think said, leave Jimmy G in Nashville or something like that. And then it was like this big thing, and then John Lynch like made an apology tweet like, "Oh, I'm so I didn't check my phone. I was actually in Mass, something like that. I think it was like Christmas. I was in Christmas Eve Mass, and I accidentally pressed a button on my phone." Like, Antonio Pierce, you couldn't pull a John Lynch, and just like, I'm so sorry. I was too busy making business decisions. I hit the like button on my phone.
Damn kids using my iPad again.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Oh, what if that was the straw that broke the camel's back? It was like one of his kids or relative using the iPad, or it's logged in, and it's like, well, you just cost me a Hall of Fame receiver.
Yeah, $30 million wide receiver, Devontae Adams. Point being there, we are all human, but that is not a good look as a professional. Okay? And even though I was not in disagreement with Antonio Pierce 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, I guess 2 weeks ago, with the business decisions, comment, this season has been pretty damn rough for Antonio Pierce so far. They have a losing record. Their team does not look – their team looks worse than last season, period. And I expected them to look much better than this. And the only thing that was really holding me back was the quarterbacks, of like, I could see them being the problem. And then, Deke and Luke Getsy, I guess, like, the season kind of rides on him in a way, right? But you have the head coach out here saying questionable things to the media and liking a post that a day later or 2 days later is that about a player who requests a trade, and of one of the top stars in this league at that. Like, it's not a good look. And like, they lose this game to the Broncos 34-18, and I'm not going to say that the Raiders have like Antonio Pierce has lost the locker room, but I would say he's at risk of losing it for sure. And if he does, and if things like this continue, by all means, fire him. Like I have been a very big supporter of him, but I was trying as best I could to be careful not to seem like an
A
Antonio
truther.
Pierce, like, yeah, truth or die hard. What matters to me is what's best for this franchise. That's why I want them to tank, because I know it's better for their future. If you could ask any Commanders or Texans fan if they would tank to do it all over again and get that quarterback, they'd say, in a fucking heartbeat, I don't care about 2022, 2023. I don't care. I don't care about 2024. I'm a Raider fan. It is week 5. I don't care about this season. We're not winning shit. Get the quarterback. Get the right coach, whoever that has to be. If you have to go get Mark Davis, if you want to put your money where your mouth is, give Ben Johnson the contract that he cannot refuse. Give whatever up-and-coming offensive coordinator the contract that he can't refuse. Tell him, be our head coach. You can draft whatever quarterback you want. Let's go get this thing done. Because I'm telling you right now, that would be better than whatever the hell probably will happen.
Question. So Mark Davis expresses interest in Ben Johnson. He's like, oh, I'm not interested. Are you just taking that?
If it's
You said
reported that Ben
an
Johnson...
offer he can't refuse.
Right. And if he says, I'm not interested,
No,
then what are we supposed to do?
Reaching out first. Reaching out first, I'm not interested. Then you give the offer that they can't refuse.
It depends on how communications go, really, because in like the NFL, because what I understand is like you don't just contact the head coach and be like, hey, we'll give you $60 million. What do you say? No, you bring him in for interviews and you talk to them, and then once those are done, then you have a second round of interviews, and then after that you might give out offers. It's a process. So if day one it's like, hey, we'd like to bring you in for an interview, and he just says no, it's like, oh shit, like I don't know if the verbiage is even like properly there to be like, well, here's what we'd give you. Like, you're not interested in that at all. Like, we're trying here. I don't know if you can even do that. I don't know. It just, point being, if I hear that my favorite head coach candidate, which by the way is slowly actually becoming Brian Flores, a guy that I wanted back when they got Antonio Pierce, or actually maybe even Josh McDaniels. I've always thought he'd be a great candidate for the Raiders, and here he is leading probably arguably the best defense in football right now for the shocker of the season so far, the Minnesota Vikings.
Yep.
Undefeated. 5-0.
Dude, you know what? The Raiders might all right. The Raiders are in the quarterback market. That's no secret to anybody. If Sam Darnold balls out for the rest of the year and the Vikings have a winning record, how can they put JJ McCarthy on the field?
Yeah, I think at that point
would you not inquire? Would you not inquire about him though?
Oh, I would definitely. About who?
About JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean, if that became
he will have not played football in a year, and he would be firmly the backup. Like, they can go the Green Bay Packers route, I guess, but I mean, honestly, it's in their best interest to do that. Yeah. But maybe they might be looking at it like, hey man, we have a problem on our hands. We got 2 quarterbacks, because some people will say if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any.
Yeah.
Niners back in the day got rid of Alex Smith because they started rolling with Colin Kaepernick, And I guess that's like the reverse of what the Vikings are in, because the Vikings are going with the veteran, and the rookie is the one that got hurt.
I think it really just, what matters there is just what they see on the practice field and how much they really believe in JJ McCarthy and his future. Because I think there comes a point where you have to go with that. I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're going to stay undefeated or practically, a top seed in this league with Sam Darnold, it's like, how do you sway away from that next season? Yeah, agreed. But I don't know. They're just, I could also just see it where, hey, Sam Darnold's about to be a free agent. Unless they franchise tag him, he might just say, well, highest bidder, because my career has been kind of shit so far, and this might be my one chance to get the biggest contract possible. And the Vikings might just be like, you know what, that's fine and fair. We have a guy that we believe in here. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I just the Raiders need to draft a quarterback.
Yep. You know what the Raiders will also do? They will do the Raider thing and lose in their bye week.
Somehow, yeah, something will happen, right?
Yeah. I do want to say, so regarding the whole Devontae Adams thing, I let you say your piece, and you're a Raider fan, and you talked about how, you have a lot of love for Devontae Adams, and I'm not a Raider fan. For those of you watching at home, I don't have a dog in the fight when it comes to talking about the Raiders. I don't hate the Raiders, and I have a lot of people who I care about who like the Raiders. I just love football. And I love talking about football. I love fantasy football. I love all like big picture stuff about teams. I love team histories. Team histories, stuff like that. When it comes to the the Devontae Adams sort of experience for Raider fans, don't let me try and tell you that it wasn't as good as maybe you remember, because maybe you really enjoyed having Devontae Adams. But from my outside perspective, I couldn't see a more miserable experience to have with a player the caliber of Devontae Adams. Like, it felt like, we joked about it last week. Every single week it was, oh, we got to get Devontae out of here. Just trade him already. This stuff. I couldn't imagine, like, the constant narrative around him was that he wanted out. Like, every single week, that was the constant narrative, whether it was the truth or not. And I couldn't imagine walking that tightrope as a fan. I would just say, you know what? Get him the fuck out of here already. I don't want to hear it, because where there's smoke, there's fire, in my opinion. And I think, I don't know, dude, that would just drive me nuts. It's like, this guy, every single day we're talking about, yeah, we got to get rid of this guy. It's like, well, why the fuck do we got to get rid of him? He's a superstar. Obviously, I mean, the answer is obvious. It's because they don't have the quarterback to pair with him. So they're, the Raiders are wasting him. But, like, he wanted to come to the Raiders, and I don't know. The Raiders' mistake was Josh McDaniels in the first place. That was the mistake, right? Huge mistake. And then Josh McDaniels pushed Derek Carr out, and that was the main reason why Devontae Adams wanted to come to the Raiders. Also because, it's closer to his family and everything. But I don't know, man. I think that's got to be awful, right? Raider fans in the comments, tell me how you feel. Like, this, it was always like, it was always a topic, and I couldn't imagine a more exhausting thing for a superstar wide receiver.
Yeah. If you're saying it's exhausting for the receiver, yes, I agree with you. Like, everything that you just said is like, oh, it's super exhausting for him. Yeah, sure.
For the fans. For the fans.
That's what I thought you were saying. That's what I thought you were saying. I completely disagree with you, because my realistic take was, until he says that he wants out, and he's been very strong up until week 4 or whatever to deny that he wants out, I'm going to believe that he wants to stay here, all while, ever since Derek Carr was, let go by the Raiders, it made sense to me that the rest of the NFL fandom thought, well, the obvious thing to do here is to trade Devontae. They should trade Devontae. If the Raiders GM's smart, they'll get something for Devontae or whatever. Or just, I hope my team trades for Devontae, because at some point he's going to request a trade. The writing was on the wall. I think it's miserable for him. Is it miserable for the Raider fans? Yes, because the writing's on the wall, because we fucking suck. And we are not the perfect scenario for him. the perfect scenario for him is the Ravens, the Jets, the Saints, a team that could use a top dog receiver and is looking to make a playoff run. And I think the Ravens would be nasty with that trio.
The perfect team for Devontae Adams
Is in the
that's
AFC
not
West.
it's not going to happen. It
Yep.
is one of the two AFC West teams, between the Chiefs and the Chargers. It's not going to happen. The Raiders are not going to trade Devontae Adams there. And if they do, I'm sorry, that's dumb.
If they do, then Tom Telesco is on my whatever list you want to call it, but he's on that list for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's definitely up there, with the probably the worst people in history,
Yeah. It would not be fun. No, it just you can't do that. So that's kind of all I have for Devontae, but I'd say I wouldn't be shocked if when we come into next week's pod next Sunday night, if Devontae Adams is a member of another NFL team. I think the trade can absolutely and probably should get done this week. But if his hamstring is still bothering him, then perhaps it takes another week. But it'll be done within 2 weeks, guaranteed.
I think the Ravens should try and push to trade for him. That would make an already practically unstoppable offense like just that much more dynamic.
Yeah, and the more that this team wins, the more I think that this team makes a lot of sense. But the Washington Commanders would be a great team for him, specifically because they look like a legitimate playoff team, and they don't have a true number one receiver. They would take Jaden Daniels from what is already like pretty much. If he even barely keeps it up, he's for sure the rookie of the year. You would turn the rookie of the year into an MVP candidate, legitimately. He wouldn't win MVP because I don't think a rookie has ever done that and probably will never do that. But just look for a winning team that needs a true, star receiver and add him to the list. I'd say the rumor is that the Jets and the Saints are kind of the leading candidates because the Jets is where he wants to go and the Saints have made a strong push. That's what I've seen. So
if the season ended today, who's the NFL MVP right now? I wouldn't even be opposed to saying Jaden Daniels, and he's a rookie.
I wouldn't be opposed to saying Jaden Daniels. Let me look at something. Real quick here. Okay, let's see. Leaders.
You're gonna say Kirk Cousins?
Oof. What is the Buccaneers record? Are they like 4-1, 3-2? I'm guaranteeing they have a winning record.
Hold on. They are 3-2.
3-2. So I'd say that the top. I'll give you the top 5 options for MVP: Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen. Those are your top 5. And Lamar Jackson started off 0-2, maybe even 0-3. I think 0-2 though. Sam Darnold's 5-0. He's been doing really good, man. But he has the best receiver in football.
Yeah.
It's a great question. It really is. I would probably be picking between Baker, Lamar Jackson, and Jaden Daniels right now.
Yeah. That's why I don't think it's so crazy for a rookie to win MVP. I think it'll eventually happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see it. It's just, man, that'd be one crazy award show. I'll throw out one other dark horse MVP candidate, Zamir White. He's been killing it this year. Fantasy managers of him must be ecstatic about him.
And you know what? Don't talk shit about Zamir White. I like Zamir White.
He's fine. He's gonna go. Well, he'll either the Raiders will change their offense this offseason, or he'll eventually go to an offense with like a power scheme and like actually good play calling, and he'll be a stud for sure.
Let's go ahead and switch over. We'll preview the Raiders versus Steelers, and then we'll get to the rest of the comments, and then we'll call it a night here. It's 1:10 in the morning. Just for everybody watching who isn't watching live. So hello from the past. Mike, let's go ahead and talk about who is going to win the Raiders versus Steelers game and what we can expect.
Can we just make it quick?
Here, I'll sort of break it down. I think that the Steelers have a great defense, and that is going to pose a lot of problems for the Raiders offense, which is a poor offense right now. Like, if we're really simpling it down, dumbing it down to that, the Raiders are going to struggle on offense. TJ Watt is going to be a factor. I think the Steelers, while they don't have a great offense, which will go against the Raiders defense, which hasn't, they haven't been bad. They've been pretty decent.
Right. A little back and forth.
Yeah, a little up and down here and there. I will go ahead and take the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. They just narrowly lost to the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football just a couple hours ago. But yeah, where is this? In Pittsburgh or is this? No, this is at home. This is in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel good betting. I don't feel good betting on the Raiders right now.
No, I too am picking the Steelers, and it's not even close for me. Especially coming off a loss. Like Mike Tomlin won't lose twice in a row. There's no fucking way.
Why is it not close to you? What are the reasons that you are picking the Steelers? Just for
honestly, this is really bad. This is really bad commentating or whatever you want to call it. But it's because it's the Steelers. It's because it's Mike Tomlin and he doesn't have losing records. Just like the Cowboys game, they should have won, but for the most part, they win the games that they should win, whereas the Raiders don't. And maybe that's why the Raiders might actually be in this game, is because they win the games that they shouldn't and they lose the games that they shouldn't. And this is a game to me that they shouldn't win. And I strongly believe they won't win this game.
I have a feeling we're going to get on like a little streak here of like correct predictions. What do you think?
I think so. I hope so. Because I'm not picking the Raiders.
Maybe we've cracked a little bit of a code here.
Yeah,
so
bet against the Raiders.
Yeah, no. Like I said, for me, it's the defense. So that Pittsburgh Steelers defense is nasty. What realistically are the Raiders going to be able to do on offense? If they do something, then next week I'll just say, man, what the hell is up with this team? Like one, like if they're incredibly inconsistent, that just like that's kind of a knock on Antonio Pierce.
Yeah.
I
would say one last note is just it's possible that Aiden O'Connell will start this game. Not by any means do I think it's like super likely, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm. So Steelers only if Aiden O'Connell starts, right? I'm just kidding.
No, just in general. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Let's take these comments.
Let's take these comments, and then we'll get out of here for the night. We appreciate everybody for, staying here with us and, just hanging out after what seemed to be a rough week 5 for both of our teams. But, so Devontae, checking out Gypsy Mike says, Devontae Adams was saying, get me the ball last year when Bajent beat them. Do you think Antonio Pierce told him to stay, they'd get a good quarterback and get him the ball, and he stayed? Would you keep him if you could, or trade him?
I mean, I kind of probably already answered it, but I think the correct thing to do is to trade Devontae, get draft capital right now because we need to draft a quarterback, and just get youth on this team, and hopefully get the right youth on this team to where you can build a foundation for that quarterback that you draft, and hopefully start winning like the Texans and Commanders of years past in the past 2 years. Um, so I would be trading Devontae. But you have a great theory within this of maybe AP told him, like, hey man, we'll get you the ball, and then it's still up and down of like, all right, this week he only got 4 targets. What the hell? And then the next week he gets like 12, and it's like, there you go. Maybe that was a thing where it's like week to week he's like, God damn it, give me more targets, and then give him more targets, and he's like, thank you. And then the next week they're like, all right, now let's go back to the ordinary game plan. He's like, what the fuck, we lost, dude. Throw me the ball more. I don't know. It could be anything, but
Lucky says, remember Tay Adams vouched for Getsy. When we needed Tay Adams, he dropped crucial passes, or he drops crucial passes.
yeah, the reporting is that he vouched for Luke Getsy, and like I don't think by any means did he was it like Devontae was picking the offense coordinator, but you know, it's funny that he had a big say or help in picking the offense coordinator. Which, bear in mind, like it almost seemed pretty clear that we got like our third favorite choice at best at offensive coordinator. Because the offensive coordinator for Washington, who is succeeding very much so right now, was the guy that we had a deal in place with, apparently. And then that fell through, Cliff Kingsbury. So, it is funny, though, that, now Devontae is demanding a trade, and he has had some drops. He had a couple drops in that Ravens game. So, whatever.
Yeah. Checking out Gypsy Mike says, Getsy's a good coach. If you didn't see it last year, Fields said in an interview that he couldn't remember everything Getsy was trying to teach him. It was too much, and he felt like a robot doing it all. So I don't know if that tells me that Getsy is a good coach, and more so that he's smart. He's very smart. Like maybe we can give Getsy credit, but is Justin Fields just that hard to work with, or does Getsy need to do a better job of simplifying the offense in a way that the players that he has at hand can understand? Because you can have all these ideas, but if your system doesn't work with the players that you have, you're not going to have you're not going to have a great time that season. I think that a great coach will build a system around the personnel that they have and not just try and have the system in place and then just find perfect fits within that system. I think great coaches, are able to switch it up and not just, well, this is the way that I run things. And that's one of the issues that I personally have as a Niner fan with Kyle Shanahan, because I feel like Shanahan is more of the, less of the I want the best available players on the field at the same time, and more of this is just the way that I run my offense. And I think that's why there's this sort of big battle right now about why Juwan Jennings isn't getting more playing time, when every single time Juwan Jennings is on the field, good things happen. And I think Kyle Shanahan just really likes to, have a fullback on the field, Kyle Juszczyk, run the ball, and have Juszczyk being the lead blocker. And that's just the way that the Shanahans have done it since Kyle was a kid, since Mike Shanahan was calling plays in the NFL, and that's it. Get used to it. This is the way things are going to be. And I don't know. Lecky says asks, if Getsy was a good coach, why did the Bears let him go? Help me understand.
Yeah, because they still have the same head coach, so it's like, well, they determined that somebody had to go, And really, they overhauled their offense. Really, I think what it tells me is they didn't want him to. This sounds dumb, but they didn't want him to be the one touching on Caleb Williams. They didn't want him being the coach of Caleb Williams. They wanted somebody else. So, that is telling for sure. He's not. I said earlier, he's not a quarterback whisperer.
Like says, Jets fans are in the same situation as us. People act like they're a contender. Shaking my head. I think the Jets do have much better quarterback play than the Raiders currently do. And I think that makes a huge difference.
And their offensive line is better too, I'd say. And the running game, in theory, should be better, but they've been kind of struggling. And their defense is a bit better as well, even though on paper it's like, oh, it should be similar, but
Mm-hmm. Checking out, Gypsy Mike says, Getsy was the scapegoat for, how do you pronounce that? Poles or Poles?
It's Poles. Ryan
Okay.
Poles.
Ryan Poles.
And
Eberflus, Matt Eberflus losing. They should have replaced Fields 2 years ago and didn't. Not did they fix the O-line. So they didn't fix the O-line. Eberflus will probably be fired this year for Williams sucking. They won today, didn't they?
Yeah, they killed the Panthers, which the Raiders couldn't do.
They're supposed to kill the Panthers, but yeah, the Raiders are supposed to kill the Panthers too. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
Max Crosby talking to a reporter today is all I needed to hear, says Lecky.
Yeah, there was something there. I guess he didn't name drop the person that went on the Pat McAfee show, but Max Crosby consistently called this dude a clown. Not Pat McAfee, but the guest that went on and was saying, basically worrying or whatever you want to call it, wondering why Max Crosby didn't attend the Week 4 game against the Browns, due to his high ankle sprain. And basically saying, like, clearly there's like an issue in the locker room and, something along those lines with like leadership and stuff. And Max Crosby post game today, after having 2 sacks, playing on probably what is still a high ankle sprain, was like, you got these clowns out there like talking on my name. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like I was doing what I needed to do to get my foot right. That's why I wasn't at the game. And that person that he was talking about was Michael Lombardi, which we have talked about him before in relation to like Trey Lance and stuff, and kind of just opening his mouth a little too much. So, hey, Max Crosby called him a clown. He didn't name drop him, but people found out pretty quick who he was talking about. So,
yeah. Lucky says, look at Dolphins. Tyreek Hill is frustrated, and yet the media puts us in the spotlight, referring to the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders right now are in the national media spotlight. I think they're kind of brushed off to the side as the Raiders are just being the Raiders.
It's just Devontae's put in the spotlight right now, really. And as far as the Dolphins, I would say the difference between the Dolphins and the Raiders is the only way that this makes sense for Tyreek Hill, he should be all over the media, Tyreek Hill needs to get traded, is if Tua retires. Because if Tua doesn't retire, Tyreek Hill has a very optimistic outlook on the rest of this season and moving forward. Whereas Devontae still doesn't because his quarterbacks are fucking garbage. That's the difference. Is for Tyreek Hill, it's like, yeah, the past couple weeks have sucked, but he's getting paid. They actually gave him a pay raise this offseason and that they didn't need to give him. Like, I think he should be perfectly fine with what he's doing. If anything, because he's getting less targets and less work, he's probably staying healthier. It sucks to lose, but hey, he's won Super Bowls in the past. He's chilling. He just wants to play Fortnite, really. Whereas Devontae, the writing is just on the wall, and the rumors just swirled for years that, Devontae needs to get traded. He probably wants to get traded. It makes sense that Devontae was in the spotlight and Tyreek Hill hasn't been, in my opinion.
Yeah. Lucky says, if anything, it's Devontae Adams' fault that he wanted to come here. He forced his way out of Green Bay to come to the Raiders. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't fully disagree with you here. It's tough. I think where I agree with you is like, hey, you're a player, you're under contract. What are you going to do about that? You know, the best thing you can do is just play better and earn a better contract. But, you know, this is a world in which the players have their own power. So demanding trades and whatnot, you know, holding out gets things done. Um, and I just think probably what Devontae Adams didn't expect coming into this. Yeah, he got the big deal. Granted, the final 2 years of his big deal, where it was backloaded, are not guaranteed, which you could argue that's on his fucking agent. But what he probably didn't, you know, expect coming to the Raiders, which was such bad dysfunction as a franchise, because they wouldn't keep their head coach and GM intact a year and a half after he got there. And then you get a new head coach and GM, and it's like, let's build our own team to our vision. What does that mean? You're probably going to lose at first. You're probably going to suck at first, and that's where we are right now. And he didn't expect Derek Carr to be gone within a year of him getting there, because Derek Carr's been there for 10 years prior. So it's like, of course, Derek Carr's going to be the quarterback of the Raiders. Like, let's get this done. Boom, he comes in. Josh McDaniels sucks. Pulls Derek Carr. You're out of here, dude. And then it's Jimmy Garoppolo, who just does not fit well with Devon. It just, like, I agree. He forced his way here. He signed the contract, all that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, you know, he is trying to make the Hall of Fame. And I can't fault him for being like, I got to do what I got to do, you know? And just getting, frankly, tired of this shit, because I think if you look at it from certain lenses, you feel about it a little differently. If I were like, I'm very appreciative of things that happen to me in life, and I feel like Devontae Adams is too. But he's a seasoned veteran, and I know I've worked at my job for quite a few years now, and it's like I see stupid bullshit happen, and I'm like, that is stupid bullshit, right? Devontae Adams can do the same thing. If it's my first day on the job, I'm not going to be like, I mean, if it's really bad, then it's really bad, and it's like, yeah, this is probably toxic, I should get out of here. But if it's like, you don't know any better or something, or you're just appreciative of like having the job, you're not going to be like, actually, I want to get traded. You know, I guess just if you look at it from a certain lens, the mindset changes. Like from a fan, it's like, well, dude, if I were getting paid millions to play for my favorite football team, I wouldn't have any complaint. Right. Yeah. But if you look at it from the lens of a seasoned veteran who has a Hall of Fame track record, but probably just needs to win a Super Bowl to really, you know, convincingly become a Hall of Famer, getting sent to this dysfunctional ass team, GM after GM, head coach after head coach, is not good for his career outlook. And the quarterbacks that they're putting in front of him, if I were him, would push me over the edge.
Yeah. I can definitely see the frustration there. And, you know, he's been very vocal. He wants to win a Super Bowl. And right now, the Raiders are far, far from the Super Bowl. So I do think, though, I still hold true. That's very frustrating for the fans because, like he says, he forced his way here. You know, this is like, I don't know how many times I have to make this SpongeBob reference on this podcast, but it's like the kid crying, you know, I didn't want pistachio ice cream. And then, well, why did you ask for it? You know, why'd you force your way on the Raiders? Because even with Derek Carr, you're not going to, like, it wasn't a Super Bowl team. It wasn't.
I got two things for you. First off, earlier when you talked about this, and you said, like, I can't imagine a more miserable, like, fan experience or something relative to a player. Yes. I can give you two words: Randy Moss. Okay. 2. You also have to consider, again, looking at it through a certain lens here, and looking at it from Devontae Adams' lens. Why did he want to leave the Packers? because the writing was on the wall that Aaron Rodgers was about to leave the Packers. And, if only he had the foresight that Jordan Love was going to be as good as Jordan Love was going to be. But it's like, well, do I want to stay here and hope that Jordan Love is good and that might fuck my career? Or do I want to go to a guy who I believe in and I have a very deep friendship with in Derek Carr? That makes sense. He didn't order, the Jimmy Garoppolo and Gardner Minshew Raiders. He ordered, as far as pistachio goes, he ordered Derek Carr's Raiders, where Derek Carr has always been the quarterback as long as I've been in the league. And then 1 year in, it's like, pull the rug out from under you. That's not happening anymore. Have fun with Jimmy Garoppolo and Gardner Minshew.
Okay, but the thing is, Derek Carr was going into a contract year. Like, that was his contract year. He was going to have to be paid $40 million after that, and the Raiders were not going to meet that price. Derek Carr was not not worth $40 million, or at least at that point, he was not.
I think NFL players, I'm going to be really honest with you here. I think NFL players can be very stupid. Or, no, not stupid. They're very naive when it comes to contracts. Because at the time when Devontae came here, Derek Carr was on year 1 of 3 on his contract. He was not in a contract year. What he was in was a time period in which he needed to stay on the team for his guarantees to kick in. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. But he had 2 more years, $42 million per year. So from Devontae's eyes, it's, I'm locked in with Derek for 3 years.
What? I think you're right.
That's why Derek Carr was let go, because the guarantees were going to kick in by March 20th. So they set that date as the timeline to get a trade done, or we'll cut you. And Derek Carr was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go visit with these teams. I'm going to tell you to fuck off when you ask me if I want to get traded. Rightfully so, because that's the leverage that Derek Carr had. But he was on a 3-year deal, and year 1, like, he just signed it, and then Devontae comes over. So it was like, fuck yeah, Devontae, let's get this. Devontae gets traded to the Raiders. He signs a 5-year deal. The last 2 on that deal were not guaranteed. So what does he think? If his agent is like hyping him up on that, it's, hey, if you play good enough, the Raiders aren't going to let you go. You're going to get that money. And even if you don't get that money, you're going to play 3 years with Derek Carr. And then it didn't happen. So
yeah. Checking out Gypsy Mike says Ben Johnson may want to win a Super Bowl first before moving on, and demand being the general manager too, or have the team that he wants that aren't looking for a head coach yet. I don't think it's so much the first part.
A head coach is not going to demand a head coach. Sorry, is not going to demand being a general manager unless he's like Bill Belichick or something. Even like Jim Harbaugh, like he's not the GM. But
it happens, right, dude. Chip Kelly.
It happens.
Chip Kelly was the GM as well for the Niners too.
Yeah, I mean,
as awful as that.
I just don't.
No. Wait, Trent Baalke. I think Trent Baalke was. Sorry.
Yeah. Like, I don't think a first-time head coach is going to come in and be like, I want to be the GM too. But they could very much say, I want to pick my GM, and then they pick a guy who's going to, more so follow his orders than he follows the GM's orders. And that's fine and fair, I guess. But, I do agree with, I think Ben Johnson wants to go to the right situation because he opted to stay with the Lions probably with that in mind of like, I'm not going to go and leave this successful thing that I'm a part of to go and struggle with the Jacksonville Jaguars,
Mm-hmm.
So I think something that could entice a head coach is if you have a premium draft pick to pick a quarterback, like a Cliff Kingsbury going to the Washington Commanders.
Or a quarterback already who just needs to be,
yes,
molded a little bit, like Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert with Jim Harbaugh. Absolutely. Yes.
Lucky says, fans keep talking about drafting a quarterback. Who's going to be blocking for him? Our offensive line has been sus.
God help us.
Raiders need to keep Devontae Adams, make Bowers the tight end / slot receiver, and Mayer the main tight end. with a good quarterback, Adams will get his catches and the Raiders will kick some ass. I don't think Adams is going to stay for that, man.
Yeah, that's what I was saying in like week 1 and 2. But no, I'm in full agreement and belief and acceptance that Devontae Adams will not be a Raider within the next 2 weeks.
So you're telling me that, hold on. You're telling me, I'm going to share my screen real quick. You're telling me this guy is not the answer at quarterback? Dove Kleiman trending. Gardner Minshew was caught picking his nose and eating boogers on the bench.
That's great.
I think that's reason enough to just bench him.
That's reason enough to just cut the stream, go to bed.
Dude, wasn't there a stream where we were talking about like boogers or whatever? We were talking about that, and now the prophecy has been fulfilled. Gardner Minshew has eaten his own boogers. Another thing that we foreshadowed.
So now's a good time as ever to announce that next week we're going to have Booger McFarland on as a guest, and he's going to tell us that if the Raiders can't outscore the Rams, then the Rams will win that game.
Yeah, you see, the thing is that people don't understand about football. Like, it's a really complex game. Like, the Raiders, if they can find a way to just put up more points than the Steelers, I really like their chances in winning that football game.
Absolutely.
Well put, right?
Yeah, I think you can't be wrong there, really.
No disrespect to Booger McFarland. It's the meme. It's the meme, man. Watt will take AOC's head off. Minshew will get in, and I don't know the exact definition of this saying, so I'm not going to say it. I don't know if I'm allowed, but I have heard it before. I just, I don't know if Urban Dictionary is going to get me in trouble with that.
I do get his point of Minshew being able to escape pressure would help against TJ Watt for sure, but I don't think it matters in this game, man. Steelers defense is going to do some things that shouldn't be on television.
Fields left Georgia because he couldn't learn to be a pocket passer. Lots of dudes who were successful in college bust in the NFL. Pause. Williams may be a bust. They've had to dumb down the playbook for him. Yeah, I mean, Fields, I didn't think was the solution for the Raiders because of reasons like that, because it just seems like Fields wants to run the ball. But, here we are. And I guess we'll see this week how Justin Fields looks against the Raiders defense. But I would almost rather have Justin Fields right now for the 6th round pick than Gardner Minshew for what, $15 million?
Yeah.
So, if they're both going to be 1-year rentals, give me Fields.
Yeah.
Will Patrick Bateman is back to return some tapes again. Yo, we lost. Kyle looked lost out there, man. Yeah, I mean, look, it's just a 10-point lead. It's not so hard. You just run the ball. You don't turn the ball over. And you just close out the game. It's really not that hard, Kyle. But Niners win that game if Jordan Mason doesn't fumble. They probably have a better chance of winning that game if Jake Moody doesn't get hurt. It's not the most egregious Kyle Shanahan collapse that I've seen. And, if you want like a more in-depth breakdown of like, or just more in-depth reaction to the, to the game, it should be posted tomorrow, or you can just rewind this video and start from the beginning. But yeah, on to next week. I think that next week's matchup is a little bit better for the Niners because Geno Smith is not Kyler Murray in terms of mobility, although he is much better than I remember in terms of being mobile. So, yeah, it was a frustrating game today. It wasn't as frustrating as the Minnesota game, but it was a game we should have won. So, Niners outplayed the Vikings. Not the Vikings. The Cardinals most of the game. Just let it go, just like the Rams game. So hopefully this NFC West match is not going to be the same. Checking out Gypsy Mike back with another comment about Tyson Bagent. Says another reason I like Bagent is he's not worried about the money. He was asked about doing commercials for like a soda company, and he said he wouldn't do one for $3 million because soda is unhealthy. I want to say Steph Curry does the same thing too. I think Curry does like water commercials because they're healthy. So I guess what I'm gathering from this stream here tonight is that Tyson Bagent is the second coming of Stephen Curry. He's the football equivalent to Steph Curry. So, no, I mean, honestly, you telling me all this, I think is giving me more faith in Tyson Bagent. I thought that he looked good last year, but I didn't really know what to make of it. But, I do remember him being better than Fields in terms of running that offense. So, yeah. His new nickname is Booger in terms of Gardner Minshew. Yeah, I think that's honestly that's probably the best spot for us to end the show tonight. Mike, it was a great show. Aside from like horrible, football that had to grace our eyes today from both of our teams. What was worse, Mike, the game or the booger? What's more disgraceful?
Probably the booger, because I expected the game. I didn't expect a booger.
Yeah. Checking out Gypsy Mike. You guys ever watch the 7 podcast? No, I haven't even heard of it. Are they good? No disrespect to them. Like if they're huge and I haven't heard of it, like that's just on me for being uncultured. We're not Panthers fans. It could be worse. Honestly, all right. As far as like, I don't know, their situation is pretty bad, but it has gotten exponentially better ever since they started playing Andy Dalton. I think that offense looks a lot better. Chuba Hubbard has a lot more juice, and they're about to get what's his face back, Jonathan Brooks. So, it's still, I would say they were a dumpster fire before, and right now they're just a dumpster. So, right now the Raiders are a trash can. Can we call the Raiders right now a trash can?
Yeah.
Or just hot garbage? Like,
yeah,
hot garbage. And right now the Niners are, they're just old. Look, they're just old. Happy Gilmore reference if you didn't catch it. But one last comment about Tyson Bagent before we're out of here. But Tyson Bagent is a CrossFit dude. Okay. So the 7 podcast, he has Tyson. That podcast has Tyson Bagent on often. You get a great insight on what he's all about. So, is he a regular? Is he, just was this like a one-time thing? Like, that's pretty cool. I don't know. I personally have not been looking for Tyson Bagent content, but maybe I will going forward. That's the show. I do want to thank checking out Gypsy Mike for commenting throughout the entirety of today's episode. I think he was the first to comment and probably the last to get a comment in here. I want to thank Will for coming back. Will, this is 3 weeks in a row. We really appreciate the support. Lecky, I can't even count. Lecky's been here for a couple weeks. It's been awesome to answer comments. And then M. Patel came back today frustrated about another 49er loss. I know he was very upset about the loss to the Rams. And Raider Ryan, thank you for tuning in. I want to say Raider Ryan said that he subscribed as well. But, it was cool to hear that he's a Raider fan, his wife's a Niner fan, and his son's a Seahawks fan. That's got to be a weird family dynamic. Mike, do you remember like 10 years ago when it was like the Oakland Seahawks? Like the Raider fans rooting for the Seahawks just to kind of go against the Niners, and then also Marshawn Lynch was on the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of like the dynamic over there where, Raider Ryan was sort of at. But last comment, checking out Gypsy Mike says, enjoyed, fellas. No, it was great to answer questions, just talk about football, and we'll see you guys next week. Mike, any last words?
Tank.
Take your medicine, Raider fans. You got to get a quarterback.